Welcome back everyone. Today in this video we are going to discuss the closing period in the lifespan, which is the old age. Characteristics of old age. However, these are far more likely to lead to poor adjustments than to good and to unhappiness rather than to happiness. Let's discuss some of the characteristics. Period of decline. Decline comes partly from physical and partly from psychological factors. The physical cause of decline is a change in the body cells due to the aging process. And unfavorable attitudes toward oneself, other people, work, in life are the psychological factors. Motivation likewise plays a very important role in decline. Next is the individual differences. Individual differences in the effects of aging have been recognized for many centuries. As differences increase with age, the individuals react differently to the same situations. For example, some men think of retirement as a blessing while others regard it as a curse. Next comes the stereotypes. There are many stereotypes of old people and even many traditional beliefs about their physical and mental capacities. These stereotypes come from many sources like the fairy tales from one generation to another, or even in forms of humor, jokes, and equally important, the concepts people have of their own old age built up in the early years of life and based on cultural stereotypes than on personal experiences affect their attitudes not only towards elderly people but also towards themselves as they grow older. Next is the poor adjustment. Those who have a history of poor adjustment tend to become more maladjusted as age progresses than those whose earlier personal and social adjustments were more favorable. And the last one is the desire for rejuvenation. The old people have now a desire to remain young as long as possible and to be rejuvenated when the signs of aging appear. Even today, medicine is taking over the tasks of trying to ward off this old age, but yes, that will definitely lead to some serious health issues. Now let's discuss about the developmental tasks. Firstly, adjustments to physical changes, as we have already discussed, like the changes in appearance, psychological changes, physiological changes, sexual changes, and changes in health. Next, maintaining intellectual vitality, adjustment to retirement and income, physical life circumstances, changes in spouse or death, new roles and activities, fulfillment of social obligations, and lastly, establishment of affiliation with peers. So, these developmental tasks of old age relate more to the individual's personal life than to the lives of others. Old people are expected to adjust to decreasing strength and gradually failing health. This often means marked revisions in the roles they have played in the home and outside. They're also expected to find activities to replace the work that consumed a major part of their time when they were younger. Although most older people learned during childhood and adolescence to get along with their age mates successfully. So, during most of their adult lives, they've had to be affiliated with individuals of all age groups. Regressing to this earlier pattern of social life is often difficult because it means that individual must now become affiliated with a group that is largely rejected by the society. Old people have little motivation to become involved with such a group. Certain problems of adjustment resulting from these developmental tasks are unique to the old age. Now let's discuss common changes in motor and mental abilities. Firstly, the motor abilities. Strength. Decline in strength is most pronounced in the flexor muscles of the forearms and in the muscles which raise the body. Elderly people tire quickly and require a longer time to recover from fatigue than younger people. Speed. Decrease in speed with aging is shown in tests of reaction time and skilled movements such as handwriting. Learning new skills. Even when the elderly believe that learning new skills will develop them personally, they learn more slowly than younger people, and the end results tend to be less satisfactory. And the last one is the awkwardness. Old people tend to become awkward and clumsy, which causes them to spill and drop things, to trip and fall, and to do things in a careless, untidy manner. And now let's see the mental changes in old age. Firstly, learning. Older people are more cautious about learning and they need more time to integrate their responses and are less capable of dealing with new material. Next is reasoning. There is a general reduction in the speed with which the individual reaches a conclusion in both inductive and deductive reasoning. Creativity. Older people tend to lack the capacity for creative thinking. Memory. Old people tend to have poor recent memories but better remote memories. Recall. Recall is affected more by age than recognition. Many elderly people use cues, especially visual, auditory, and kinesthetic ones, to aid their ability to recall. Next is the reminisce. The tendency to reminisce about the past becomes increasingly more marked with advancing age. Sense of humor. A common stereotype, as we have studied earlier, of the elderly is that of humorless people. While it is true that their comprehension of the comic tends to decrease with advancing age. Vocabulary. Deterioration in vocab is very slight in old age because elderly people constantly use words, most of which were learned in childhood or adolescence. Mental rigidity. So, in during the middle age, the mental rigidity sets and it tends to become more pronounced with advancing age, partly because the elderly learn more slowly and with more difficulty than they did earlier, and even partly because they believe that old values and ways of doing things are better than the new ones. So, finally, we have come to the hazards. Now, firstly, let's discuss the physical ones. The most common physical hazard is diseases and physical handicaps. Then comes malnutrition. Malnutrition in old age is more due to psychological than to economic causes. The most common psychological causes are lack of appetite, resulting from anxiety and depression. Dental disorders. Sooner or later, most elderly people lose some or all of their teeth. Those who must wear dentures often have difficulty in chewing foods. Ill fitting dentures or the absence of teeth often causes lisping and slurring, which interferes with the older person's speech and causes embarrassment. Sexual deprivation. Sexual deprivation or unfavorable attitudes towards sex in old age affect the old person in much the same way that emotional deprivation affects the young child. And lastly comes the accidents. Older people are generally more accident prone than younger ones. Even when the accidents are not fatal, they frequently leave the individual disabled for life. Now let's discuss the psychological hazards. First one, acceptance of cultural stereotypes of the elderly. This is hazardous because it encourages the elderly to feel inadequate and inferior. Even worse, it tends to stifle their motivation to do what they are capable of doing. Next is the effects of physical changes of aging. The second psychological hazard of old age stems from feelings of inferiority and inadequacy that comes with physical changes. The loss of an attractive appearance may lead both men and women to feel rejection by the social group. Changes in life patterns. The necessity for establishing a different, more appropriate pattern of life is the psychological hazard many elderly people face. For example, they may no longer need as large a home now that their children are grown and having a home of their own. However, many older people cling to their homes and possessions and to the lifestyle associated already with them. Next is the tendency to slip mentally. This psychological hazard is the realization that mental decline has started to set in. Many elderly people suspect or realize that they have difficulty learning new names or facts and they cannot hold up under pressure as well as they used to. They may come to think that they are slipping mentally, and this encourages them in their belief that they are too old to learn anything new. Feelings of guilt about idleness. This is the guilt about not working while other people still are. Many older people of today who grew up in more work oriented society feel guilty after retirement or after their home responsibilities have diminished. Reduced income. After retirement, many elderly people are unable to afford the leisure time activities they consider worthwhile, such as attending lectures or concerts or participating in various community activities. The last one is the social disengagement. This is by far the most serious psychological hazard. This may be voluntary, but far more often it is voluntary due to poor health, limited financial resources, or other conditions over which the elderly have little or no control. The elderly who are disengaged, either voluntarily or involuntarily, become socially isolated. As a result, they lack the social support they had in times of trouble or stress while they were younger. Thank you, everyone, and please raise your questions in the comment box below. And please stay tuned for the theories of development in the further videos.